But what about the sound and the other aspects of carpet? That would seem to be important in all levels of education.
It is, and in higher ed also. Mainly in K through 12, the biggest factor is that a carpet will absorb sound. Usually the higher the face weight, the greater the absorption rate. And there's textile composite flooring, which is a new product out there, new product category. And it absorbs even more sound than a soft surface floor covering. So why is sound absorption so important? When you and I were going to school, teachers, even back then, without testing the facility, they were smart enough to know that a kid sitting in the back in the class, if he was getting bad grades, what's the first thing they would do? They'd move you to the front. Because at least they knew that you could hear what was going on. Now, how you absorbed it from there and executed on tests was a different story. So even back then they understood that. Well, the same is true today. If a child can't hear, they can't learn. If they can't learn, they're not going to score well on tests. Then you go back to how is a superintendent, how is a principal, how is a teacher valued or evaluated in a school system? And the answer is test scores. Typically, most school systems, you'll come in the first 2 weeks of school, take a baseline test. 2 or 3 weeks before the end of school, you'll take literally the similar test, and they'll see what the difference is. And that's how teachers and educators are evaluated. So they're very aware that if a student can't hear, they can't learn. If they can't learn, they're not going to score well, and they know what that means to them.
I've been in several schools where, in fact, one was local here. And the hallways were abysmal. I didn't go in any classrooms, but it was pretty awful. I would have thought, I had a second thought about sending my kid there. I would imagine that there's a school like that in every school system in the United States. You suppose that's true?
Yes, sir, especially where you have smaller cities, more rural cities, and there's a small tax base. They have so few tax dollars to do anything with.
Is that, I mean, that can't be an attribute that people in the carpet business like.
No, not at all. No. First of all, they don't have a lot of funds, so it's hard for them to operate their facility the way it should be, and then that affects everything we just spoke to, which is acoustics and test scores and everything else. In
terms of maintenance, is it more expensive to maintain carpet than, say, a hard surface floor?
No, matter of fact, most studies that'll conduct life cycle cost tests, you'll find that a soft surface flooring over the same period of time costs much less for the initial purchase and maintenance than a hard surface.
I see. This particular school that I'm talking about, I think a contractor came in twice a year and cleaned it.
Wow.
And I don't think they really removed a whole heck of a lot of dirt, would be my observation, because of just the state it was in when I saw it after I don't know how many years of this twice a year cleaning and vacuuming, which tells me it's an educational situation. Had the people had the education, which they did not, that wouldn't have been the case. Is that something you guys end up doing at school systems, is showing them where the education is to maintain it properly?
Certainly, our reps in the field preach that and teach that, because once you sell a product, it's in everyone's best interest to have it stay on the floor and look good while it's there. And certainly they make recommendations. They can come in and do a cleaning, a maintenance demo and things of that nature, and lead the brochures on what to do. I think the biggest issue with maintenance, and you mentioned it, you either can or you won't, or you will or you won't. And in some cases where you have poor schools, based on the tax base they have coming in, a lot of them really just don't have the income to run their schools the way they should, and so maintenance is one of the first things to go by the wayside. Yeah. And then you may have situations where they have the wherewithal and the dollars and they choose to put it elsewhere.
Well, and I guess somebody who is in charge of the facility has to have that as an important part of his job, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. And then on top of that, it seems like the contractors very often don't seem to really know how to get carpet clean. That's just my observation from an unscientific observation, quite honestly.
No, you're right in a lot of cases. And I think the greater need for maintenance and the biggest issue is, first of all, to get them to do it and educate them. And then why it's so important, well, first of all, we mentioned higher ed, and that's That's what parents and students see when they come to look at a college as far as attendance there.
Yeah.
In K through 12, it really goes to, you can imagine primary through third grade, you have some incontinence, loss of body fluids, and whatever else. So there's a huge issue there with germs and things of that nature. So it's even more important that all surfaces, hard or soft, be cleaned on a regular basis.
Does that put carpet mills, J&J, and all the others included, more in the education business? I mean, is that something that's needed a great deal?
It's needed, and I believe the industry does a really good job of putting it out there, whether it's a CRI or whether it's an individual manufacturer. I just think it comes down to, will people execute what you tell them to do? Which
is a tough, if they don't have the spark to begin with, it doesn't matter, I guess, how much education
Not at all.
You scatter around them. Let me ask you about installation. Since I've been in this industry 200 years ago, they told me installation was a major problem. And they tell me that up to this point today. Do you see that as being a problem area in your areas, healthcare and education?
Problem meaning that they don't do the job or don't do it right?
They don't do the job properly. Somebody has to go back in and fix a problem.
For the most part, it's not a problem because we choose as manufacturers and as reps of manufacturers to partner with people that we're never going to put the product in, because again, we want to not only sell the product, make sure it goes in, give all the instructions for maintenance and everything, and hopefully everybody does their job and they're happy with the purchase for a great deal of time. So for the most part, it's not a problem for us. And you'll have mechanics that don't do a good job, but when you look at some very technical installations, on hard and soft surface, it's guys have to know what they're doing, and if they don't, it's pretty evident.
You deal with contractors that you have at least some assurance are going to, or have the talent, have the skill to be able to make that installation work.
Absolutely, and in some cases, the end user they will have used a contractor, and they'll let you know, I'm purchasing your product, but this is the 1 or 2 or 3 contractors that I use because we have a track record with them.
Which you love to see. No?
We do. That's fine with us.
Now what about, and I don't know if you're in a position to have a good feel for this, but they tell me that the installation community is aging, graying, I think is a word that I've heard them use, which I personally,
Nothing wrong with that.
And I guess what that really is saying is younger people aren't coming in to this profession. Are you seeing that? Is that something that you hear?
A lot of associations, whether it's the CRI or associations like that in the floor covering business, have acknowledged that, and they're making a determined effort to try and develop scholarship programs, things of that nature, to actually recruit younger people to do it. Let's face it, it's a very difficult business. It's a very labor-intensive business. When it's done right, it's a very skilled profession. Mechanics, installers, those are the terms. So it is a problem. I don't think it's reached the full crescendo yet, but it's getting there. And there's an acknowledgement of that. And you have those associations that are coming up with ideas to how to recruit young people and to remedy that situation.
I see, and I guess it's just across all trades. It's not just floor covering. I don't know that installing carpet has a great deal of sex appeal, but I'm sure there's a lot of other trades. Maybe people just don't want to get their hands dirty anymore.
That's it. Maybe that's it.
Or if you can work on a computer or something that has a technology bent, maybe that's a lot more appealing.
Right.